From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
And good morning. Welcome to Montana This Morning on this Friday. I'm Andrea Lutz. Victoria Hill has the morning off. Our top story this morning, Governor Gov Gianforte is calling on President Biden to stop all Afghan resettlements in Montana. This after a man from Afghanistan is accused in the rape of a Missoula woman earlier this week. 19-year-old Zabi Halat Mohammed is accused of raping an 18-year-old after leaving a downtown bar. Governor Gianforte says he was placed in Montana by the State Department earlier this month.
This individual did not have an SIV status, and I called on the Biden administration to assure us that these refugees are fully vetted. It's not clear to us that that occurred in this situation.
And Mohammed is part of an Afghan placement and assistance program. It helps relocate refugees as humanitarian parolees. He is currently one of 20 in our state right now. Okay, we are switching gears already and checking in on the weather with Miller Robson.
Morning,
Happy
everyone.
Friday.
Oh, you got to give me one.
It's Friday.
What do you got to say?
Hey, hey, hey. I don't know. I hope that
Friday.
works.
Yes. How
Is
you
that
doing?
what that means?
Yeah, it's hey, 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 it's Friday. You got to give me the fist pump. You know.
Oh, yeah, the whole fist pump.
We'll practice that during the
We're
break.
going to have to. I don't know how you do that.
Just like that. We'll get there.
It's pretty good.
We'll get there. Got all morning to do that. How you doing this morning there, kiddo?
I'm pretty good, yeah. I'm
All
feeling
right,
good. How
cool.
are you?
Doing well. Got any plans for the weekend?
Probably just relaxing this weekend, getting some leaves raked, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What about
true.
you?
My wife probably got something going on for me, so.
Yeah, is she like the activities director?
Yeah,
in
she
the house?
is. She pretty much is. She's the CEO and all that. I mean, she does it all, and she's just like, be here at this time, and that's what I do.
Good, good, good.
I'm a good husband. I'm a smart man, by the way. All right, let's take a live look. Here's Stockman Bank weather, courtesy of the Stockman Bank Weather Camp. See, that's 3 times fast. 41 right now at the airport, feels like 36, humidity at 76%, winds out of the southwest at about 8 miles an hour. Crunched some numbers yesterday, near 70. We're going to try to get into the 70s today for our high. Overnight low got down to about 40. Of course, no rain yesterday. No rain for us across the weekend, but that may change as we get into next week. We'll tell you about that with the main forecast coming up. 30s and 40s right now under mainly clear skies. We should see our fair share of sunshine today to warm us up in the 60s and 70s, but we do have a cool down on the way and some mountain snow as well. We'll take a look at that and that possibility of rain next week coming up.
Goodness sakes, all right.
Yeah, bit of a roller coaster ride there.
Yeah, I've been watching the sunrise and sunset times really closely.
Yeah.
Because I noticed they're just, they're inching closer
Oh,
together.
sure, days
earlier.
are getting shorter.
It's just
And
always
daylight
that time.
savings time will be ending in November. The week after
Oh, is it?
Halloween? Yeah,
It's
so
in-
it's coming up quick.
See?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of stuff going on, boy.
So many things happening in the fall. All right.
Sure enough.
Miller, thanks so much.
Okay.
All right. Well, the state is rolling a new weapon into the fight against COVID-19. Monoclonal antibody treatments are given to people infected with the virus through IV. They're similar to antibodies the body makes, but are produced in a lab. Governor Gov Gianforte says the treatments help cut down on hospitalizations and deaths, but he says it's not a substitute for the vaccine. And both Billings hospitals offer that treatment. Billings Clinic infectious disease specialist Dr. Neil Koo says the therapy is done within 10 days of the infection. He explains how the treatment works.
These antibodies will then bind to a part of the virus, the spike protein, and that will prevent the virus from infecting your normal cells. And then somehow the body will then recognize that to try to clear out that the combination of the virus and antibodies. So that's the theory behind that.
Dr. Koo says the entire treatment takes 20 minutes with an hour of observation right afterward. The CDC says 100 million Americans now be eligible for another COVID-19 booster shot. The agency says all Johnson & Johnson recipients can get a booster 2 months after their first dose, and the new guidelines allow for mixing and matching vaccines. A Montana judge is rejecting a request from some Bozeman parents hoping to block mask mandates in school. The judge says the lawsuit will likely fail because the mandates don't violate fundamental constitutional rights. School districts have the authority to issue rules to keep schools safe, and students are obligated to follow those rules. There's now 2 options left for Montana's new congressional districts. The 5-member commission narrowed it down, but not without strong disagreement. MTN's Jonathan Anbarian reports.
Montana's Districting and Apportionment Commission planned to bring out one final draft map Thursday for the state's 2 new congressional districts. But enough disagreements remain between Republicans and Democrats on the commission that they each brought forward one proposal for the public to weigh in on. Both sides offered updated maps Thursday to address some of the concerns about their original plans. Republicans' proposal would break up Gallatin County, including all of the city of Bozeman in the west and other parts in the east. It would place Lewis and Clark County in the eastern district and Glacier and Pend Oreille counties in the west. Democrats' proposed map would keep all of Gallatin County and Park County in the western district, along with Helena, but it would split Flathead County, with Whitefish in the west and the rest of the county, including Kalispell, in the east. While the 2 maps were closer together, each side was still critical of the other's proposal. Democratic commissioners want a map with one competitive district, and said putting areas like Helena in the east would heavily favor Republicans in both districts.
Your options are invariably, well, you have to go into a area that is very competitive or there and do what is called cracking, which is dilute it and throw it into the east. And that's what this map does. It doesn't even approach competitiveness.
Republicans have favored maps that are geographically compact, and they say putting Kalispell in the east is also advantaging one party over the other.
It was just mentioned earlier that somehow Republicans were cracking and packing, and this is cracking and packing Republicans.
Maylin Smith, the commission's chair, acknowledged there are hard decisions ahead.
Every line you draw has political implications, and to think otherwise is just being either naive or unrealistic.
The commission will be taking public comment on both maps during a hearing October 30th, a Saturday. They're also encouraging people to submit written comment about the maps. You can find out how on our website. The commission will then choose one map to be the final draft, and they could give that final approval the following week. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
All right, although the final district boundaries aren't final campaigns for those, or I should say final campaigns for those districts are already underway. As MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison reports, the money flowing in is coming from all over the country, and some candidates are getting a bigger percentage from Montanans.
First, let's look at the more crowded and likely more competitive race, the battle for Montana's new open congressional seat. It has 2 Republicans, former U.S. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke and former State Senator Al Olszewski of Kalispell, and 3 Democrats, State Representative Lori Bishop of Livingston, public health expert Cora Newman of Bozeman, and Missoula attorney Monica Trinnell. Zinke, a former congressman who forged a national fundraising network while in office, is the fundraising leader with $794,000 so far. But only 23% of his total came from donors identified as Montanans, about $180,000. About the same amount of his money has come from donors in Texas, California, and Florida. And another 12.5% came from political action committees, or PACs. Olszewski has raised at least 78% of his $300,000 from Montanans, a total of $233,000. Among the Democrats, Newman is the fundraising leader with $466,000 in donations, but only a fourth of that money for itemized donations, about $118,000, has come from Montanans. She received $127,000 from California donors, or 27% of her total. Trinnell has more overall funds from Montanans than any other Democrat, $143,000, or at least 60% of her total raised funds of $241,000. And Bishop raised a total of $117,000, and at least half, or $59,000, came from Montanans. In the contest for the other House district, the money race is no contest so far. Incumbent Republican Matt Rosendale has raised $759,000 this year and has $700K in the bank, compared to just $22,000 raised by Democrat Jack Ballard of Red Lodge. Rosendale reported raising $191,000 from itemized Montana donors, or just 1/4 of his total. A third of his money has come from the same states that donated significantly to Zinke, Florida, Texas, and California. Don't be surprised if our open race gets expensive, especially if it gets on the national radar as a potential swing seat, which is entirely possible. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mike. The FBI says skeletal remains found in a Florida nature reserve are those of Brian Laundrie. Dental records have confirmed the match. The discovery comes after a weeks-long manhunt following the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. She was murdered last month in Wyoming. Tragic news from a film set in New Mexico. Actor and producer Alec Baldwin discharged a prop firearm, killing a person and injuring another. CBS's Laura Podesta has details on how it all happened.
A stunt on the set of the movie Rust went horribly wrong Thursday. The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office says the film's cinematographer is dead, its director injured, after actor and producer Alec Baldwin discharged a prop firearm on set. The sheriff's office is investigating the incident. 63-year-old Baldwin, pictured here in costume in a now deleted Instagram photo, is currently not facing any charges. Bill Davis is a weapons expert who's worked on Hollywood film sets, including westerns.
Those are all real firearms. What's fake about it is the ammunition, the blanks that are loaded into it. There's no projectile in a blank, but what I think happened is people just didn't inspect the weapon and or did not inspect the ammunition that they were loading into it.
42-year-old cinematographer Helena Hutchins was taken by helicopter to University of New Mexico Hospital in Albuquerque, where she was pronounced dead. 48-year-old director Joel Souza was also struck and rushed to Christus St. Vincent Regional Medical Center in Santa Fe. Rust actress Frances Fisher tweeted overnight that Souza was released. Production is on pause following the tragedy. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
It is not the first time someone has died on a movie set. The most famous victim is Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee, who died while filming the 1993 movie The Crow. Gun violence in the U.S. rose significantly during COVID-19 lockdowns. A new study shows gun violence was 30% higher during the pandemic compared to the year before. 28 states show a significant jump in gun violence, but Alaska was the only state where gun violence actually dropped. The Federal Reserve is banning public officials from owning certain stocks. The ban is limited to mutual funds rather than particular companies, and now officials must give 45 days notice for trading. Not allowed. In addition, they have to own their own security for a year, and that can't trade during those times of a high market stress. The U.S. Attorney General testified to Congress about the January 6th Capitol riot, defending the Justice Department's response to the insurrection. He says federal prosecutors are doing what they're supposed to do to find accountability for what happened. The supply chain backlog is affecting how we ship products to consumers. The cost of cardboard and plastic is soaring. Well, that's because there's not enough of it. A logistics company says the cost of raw materials is being driven by the Texas deep freeze and the pandemic. And experts say smaller companies feel it most since big companies pre-buy so many boxes. In the height of a worker shortage, Met Transit in Billings is offering to train bus drivers for their CDL and then hire them as well. Right now, the city is training its new hires to get that license. Before, a CDL was already required to apply, and getting one can cost $5,000. The city was short 8 bus drivers before offering the training, and now they only need to hire 2.
To be honest, I can train somebody to drive a bus. I can train somebody to get their CDL. I can't train somebody to be compassionate and work well with people. So if we can find people that have those skills already and train them to drive a bus, it works out in our favor.
It does take the city 5 to 6 weeks to train somebody to get their CDL. COVID-19 vaccines seem to be taking over the news headlines these days, but researchers at the University of Montana are working on another vaccine that could affect millions of people. MTN's Dennis Bragg has more.
Over 150 Montanans died from opioid overdose in the year ending in May 2020, and researchers at the University of Montana worry the COVID pandemic is only adding pressure to the national crisis that's killed 450,000 people in the U.S. in 20 years.
All of these stay at home, people losing their jobs, other family situations drives people towards drug and alcohol abuse or abuse of prescription pain medicine. So I actually think when the COVID thing is over, which hopefully is very soon, the underlying opioid condition we'll find has actually gotten worse in that time.
But UM researchers are pursuing a tool to help an actual opioid vaccine.
We take the opioid, which we call it a hapten because we're trying to generate an immune response against it. We link it to a carrier protein, which allows the immune system to recognize it. And once it recognizes it, it generates antibodies against that drug. Those antibodies don't cross the blood-brain barrier.
The idea is to not have a vaccine for the general public, but for recovering addicts, and especially a safety net for first responders coming in contact with fentanyl and other compounds that are lethal, even in tiny amounts.
It switches off that switch, which means that the drug can't get to the brain and have its, its narcotic effect, as well as it can't lead to lethal overdose.
And just as importantly, it doesn't preclude the use of opioids in appropriate prescriptive form.
An antibody against fentanyl will not take away your ability to have other opioid-based pain relief if you need it to control pain.
And with these things everywhere in our homes nowadays, researchers, many of them University of Montana graduates, say it's exciting to work on something that could benefit so many people.
It's just really exciting to also know the science behind it too, on finding a novel way to really attack a problem that's really been an epidemic prior to COVID. And it's exciting to be able to help in that way.
The 5-year, $33 million effort should lead to a clinical trial sometime in the next year, but Dr. Evans says it will take teamwork.
It takes corporate partners. This program is partnered with Inimmune, which is a biotech company right here in Missoula that's doing the GMP manufacturing and those aspects of it that don't fit well in a university environment and more of an industry side of things, and controlling how well the product is manufactured and make sure it's safe for use in people.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Dennis.